Hey, how you guys all doing today? Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiege. Already kickstarting Week 12, and it was a crazy game that we had on last night. To kick things off, we had another AFC North game, and typically how those go, not what we saw last night. I mean, the physicality and everything was there, but the weather and everything in the game between the Browns and the Steelers was nuts. The result was unexpected, based on our prediction, but we're going to go through all of that and talk through it. Also, talking about AFC teams in the conference, the Jets are obviously looking for a new head coach. Could they be looking for a head coach in familiar territory? Is that the best option? We'll answer that in today's show. Plus, we're going to get to the game picks as well, part 2 of what we started yesterday. So all of that and a couple more segments to get to on today's show. So make sure to stick around. But before we do get started, I'd like to remind you guys, if you guys want to get involved with the show, if you guys have any questions, comments, or opinions you'd want to share on anything we have to say on today's show, please don't hesitate to do so. Your input and your guys' interaction always makes the show a lot better in our opinion, so please go ahead and do that. Get involved, and if you want to make it absolutely sure that by getting involved, any message that you send is and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to go about that just by using the new Super Chat feature. The Super Chat feature, you're able to use it just by clicking the $sign at the bottom of the chat box that you see on your screen. And that way it guarantees that whatever message you guys want to share is featured on the show. I'll see it, I'll read it out loud, and take the conversation elsewhere. It's a great way to not only get involved, but also help the channel out in a lot of different ways. So we always appreciate you guys whenever you guys are able to do that, and we're always able to continue to provide you guys with the sports content you love anytime you guys are able to do that. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit the Super Chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and as exciting as possible. Again, use the Super Chat feature, click the $sign at the bottom of the chat box to get involved in the many conversations that we're going to have today on the show. So with that being said, we're going to get to, obviously, the game last night to kick off Week 12. We had the Steelers and the Browns facing off for the first time in 2024. And Cleveland got over their 2-game losing streak to defeat the Steelers 24-19 in what quickly turned into an ugly, weather-impactful, game with the snow coming down. It looked like two completely different games, right? In the first half, it was all pretty much cleared up, for the most part. You could at least see that the field was actually the color green instead of white. And, in the second half, it just really all went downhill from there. But some people liked it. I don't know if it's a hot take, I've never really been a fan of those weather games. I don't know. I just don't really like it for a couple reasons. And it actually has to do with what we're going to talk about. But that was what it was. Obviously, the Browns, credit to them, they beat the Steelers in a short week. It was going to be a test of will, and the Browns came out on top. The Steelers now lose their first game with Russell Wilson as their starting quarterback, and the loss to the Browns snaps a 5-game winning streak that the Steelers were on, and now they have a record of 8-3, right? And the weather was, like I mentioned, a big portion of this that we're going to touch on in a little bit. But for the Browns, Jameis Winston, first time playing the Steelers, the first time playing in below 40-degree weather, and he had a great game. For any doubts or hesitation around Jameis Winston in, the elements and things like that, and then obviously getting worse in the second half, I thought he played fantastic. He avoided some sacks, made some really big throws, got in the end zone himself, and he really orchestrated a lot of the positive things that they did well. So a great first showing against the Steelers. Also, not really on the positive side for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. They continue their bad streak on Thursday Night Football, on the road in division games especially, because they're 0-7 or 0-8 now in that regard. And Cleveland has won 5 of the last 6 games against Pittsburgh in Cleveland. So this has been an ongoing thing, if you want to say that, right? The Browns playing at home, a very different team. They're what now, 3-8, the 3-8 on the season. So I mean, the overall season's not going great, obviously, but you look at the games they have won, they've all been at home. So clearly, playing at home, playing at the dog pound, definitely gets them more amped up. And they've beaten the Ravens at home, they've now beaten the Steelers at home, and the other game was the Jaguars, in a close game, but still, they defeated them. I want to say it was at home. Now I got to check, but while I do that, looking at more of the game and kind of how it all broke down, it was pretty crazy, because there was a big swing of momentum that I felt, the Browns beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville, so two of their wins have been at home, not all of them, my mistake, but yeah, going back to this game and just talking about the craziness of it, it started with Pittsburgh, missing a field goal after last week hitting 6 of them. Their first one in these conditions went wide right, and I thought it gave you a good feel of what this game was going to be, right? Chris Boswell just won like AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, and his first kick in the following game he misses, right? And I thought that set a precedent of, it's not going to be one of those Boswell kicks field goal games, right? You're going to have to go away from that, and you're going to have to score touchdowns because the weather is not going to allow you to do that. But overall, with that being, kind of the tone setter for the Steelers, Cleveland won the first half because of the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, when it was still 3-0 after the Steelers eventually got one field goal. After that, Cleveland in the final 5 minutes scored a touchdown, and after they scored that touchdown, the Steelers are back on the field, obviously, and Myles Garrett forces a fumble. The Browns recover it, and luckily for the Steelers, they only go down and hit a field goal, right? And they take that 10-3 lead into halftime. Not completely out of it, but that's a huge swing of momentum that happened right before the half, right? You're always talking about situational moments, big impact moments before the half, coming back out of halftime are huge points in the game. And the first one went to the Cleveland Browns. And not only the score line, but Myles Garrett, my goodness. I'm going to get to the game recap and then react to what I want to say about Myles Garrett and the whole, responding to TJ and that whole thing outside of playing football. But before I get to that, going through the rest of the game, we talked about the situational moments, right? Before halftime and then after halftime, Pittsburgh had the perfect opportunity to turn things around after they recovered their own fumble. Cedric Tillman fumbled on a pass that was completed, but a good hit by Deshaun Elliott forced that free. And, they swung the momentum back in their favor, it felt like. But the Steelers offense failed on a 4th down again. The first time it was in the first half. Bad play call, same thing in the second half. They failed to convert, and they came away with nothing. So it was still 10-3. That's one missed opportunity by the Steelers. Then after the Steelers hit another field goal, and the Browns now had the ball again, I thought the game was pretty much over once, the Browns went down. They scored a touchdown. Jameis Winston ran it in after he got away from Nick Herbig. He jumped into the end zone. They went for 2. David Njoku, after dropping a bunny in the end zone, he goes up and mosses like 2 guys and flips over on his head, and they convert that 2-point conversion. So now it's 18-6. But somehow, the Steelers kicked it into gear late. I guess better late than never. And they scored 2 touchdowns back-to-back, and also a big strip sack by Nick Herbig in that entire sequence of it. Gave the Steelers the lead 19-18. And at that point, I'm thinking, like, the Steelers are about to steal one that they probably shouldn't win. But also, once, the Browns came back on the field, I thought the game was pretty much over and pretty much sealed away when Jameis Winston came back and threw that interception, right? Of course, I was wrong because the Steelers punted away on another questionable call on 3rd down to pass it. And, of course, it was incomplete in inclement weather to throw that ball, kind of just down the field. Made no sense to me, but that was the play call. The Steelers stopped the clock, and Cleveland got the ball back. Jerry Jeudy had a couple big catches. Jameis Winston made some big throws. They converted all their 4th downs, and They go down and score with 57 seconds left, and obviously the Steelers don't get anything after that, after the failed Hail Mary, so they lose 24-19. But overall, credit to Cleveland for the kind of game they played. Myles Garrett, like I said, destroyed everything. And really, the Steelers really tried to lose this game because of how well they've been playing, how well that they've not really hurt themselves. To see them play like that, I know people have been saying, like, they just play the Ravens, and you could really tell, in the snow after, having a fight with the Ravens and winning that game in a close one, it was going to take a toll on you. But I didn't think it was going to be like this. Mike Tomlin talked about the penalties to start the game and just them starting pretty slow, where the Browns were very amped up for this game, right? It's a different sort of attention to detail when the Browns and the Steelers play, and the Browns were just coming off of a loss. They were hungry to get a win, and the Steelers clearly did not meet their energy. And, you just look at the first half, like I keep mentioning with Myles Garrett. He clearly went out there to prove a point, and he did. 3 sacks, a forced fumble. He completely destroyed the game in the first half, and it was pretty lucky that they were only down 7 at halftime. But Myles Garrett, on that, sort of point, he was extra motivated for this game, not just because it was Steelers-Browns, but I thought it was kind of funny how, the reporter brought up this question about, I thought it was kind of crazy how the reporter brought up this question about TJ and how he reacted kind of salty to the Defensive Player of the Year last year, like months ago, and they bring it up now pretty randomly, and I feel like that just added some extra bit of motivation for Myles Garrett. It's not like TJ Watt threw a shot at him this week leading up into the game. This is digging it up from months ago, so to bring it up now, good for that reporter to get Myles Garrett a little bit more amped up. It clearly worked, but overall in this game, the Steelers did a lot of things bad. And the things I'm going to read out are pretty unbelievable, right? Because in this game, Cleveland was 1 of 10 on third down, and Pittsburgh was 7 of 16. The Steelers were 1 of 3 on fourth down. The Browns were 4 of 4 on fourth down. Pittsburgh ran more plays, they had more drives, they had more total yards and more time of possession, and they still lost the game. Cleveland became the first team in NFL history to commit 3+ turnovers, have 8+ penalties, convert no more than 1 third down, have under 25 minutes of time of possession, and blow a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter and still win that game. You couldn't pile up anything more on the Browns to kind of suggest that they obviously lost this game. So, again, credit to them. Their defense played very well, I thought. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome played well. The pass rush was really causing the Steelers trouble. They struggled, obviously, with Myles Garrett, and in the second half as well. They couldn't really run the ball. Najee didn't really do too much. Jaylen Warren had a pretty decent game. But, I think I was just disappointed in the fact that also, it wasn't just the players, but I didn't like the coaching decisions and some of the play calling that Arthur Smith or Mike Tomlin, executed in this game or failed to execute in this game. So I thought it was just a shame that, this game is, the implications of this game for the Browns and the Steelers, and the record coming into it, right? How Mike Tomlin has not really been successful in these type of games, but to kind of go out there pretty flat, lose all the crucial points, not stop 1 fourth down, and still get a bunch of turnovers, which the offense really didn't take advantage of. I thought it was definitely a missed opportunity here where you did everything to win the game, but it was those crucial moments that really let you down, and the Steelers kind of hurt themselves a lot in this game where that really wasn't something going into this game. So, it is what it is now. The Browns got a big win, and they deserved it, quite honestly. So that is what we saw last night, but we're going to go more into Week 12 in just a little bit. But in the meantime, while we go into our break, we're going to come back and talk about the New York Jets. What does their future hold? Who is going to be their head coach? Could they go back to a familiar face to kind of lead them out of this hole that they've dug themselves into? Who is that, and is that the right fit? I'm going to answer that question when we return after this break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Back here now on the show to get back into discussing a little bit more about the New York Jets, because it's not anything to do with the results or the product on the field this time around. It's kind of projecting forward, and obviously with Robert Saleh being fired since then, it hasn't gone well, and I don't think Jeff Ulbrich will be the head coach, obviously, going forward. So the Jets really have to take a good look at themselves and kind of start planning out the future a little bit. And of course, they're still in the early stages of it, but it's extremely important. It's very significant for them to find, for me, a very clear voice, with an idea of what they want to do. And along with their general manager too, obviously, is important. But I need somebody in there that has like a clear, like, no messing around, kind of all business aspect of it. Not someone that's just kind of whittle to the ownership or anything like that. I need someone that, brings in their own level of, like, their own reputable, what's the word I'm looking for? Their own reputable background, their resume and things like that, their cachet about them, right? Almighty Finesse, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Shedeur Sanders to the Giants. I have a lot of Giants fans that keep telling me the same thing. If you don't get the first or second overall pick, it's not going to happen. But, I mean, it's fun to talk about now, right? With Daniel Jones being released and everything like that. They're going to need a quarterback, and that would be great. Also, I'm not sure if Deion Sanders would allow him to go to the Giants. That's just me. I don't know. I feel like Las Vegas is too obvious, in my opinion. But we're going to talk about the other New York team, but keep asking me questions. I'll gladly answer them. But the Jets, the head coach, right? A true leader, someone that wants this job, obviously, with kind of how big of a mess it is, but one that, has the ability to, one, be given time to really fix everything, but one that really isn't going to take no for an answer, someone that's coming in here with a reputable background, right? Like I said, there's a lot of interesting names out there, right? There's it's a lot of interesting names out there, right? As serious candidates, a lot of new names, fresh names, right? But I didn't think that a former name would be thrown in there, and I'm talking about their former head coach, Rex Ryan, who spoke this week about wanting to coach his former team again. And it's New York, bro. Come on. Why wouldn't Deion want Shedeur in New York? I just think that, with Deion and what he has said about wanting Shedeur to be in a place where, they kind of know what they're doing from a quarterback standpoint, a good infrastructure of an organization. I don't know if that really fits with New York and how, they didn't pay Saquon and they didn't take care of him and kept him in, New York rather than just letting him walk. I don't know if that'll sit too well with Deion. I would feel a way about it if I just saw, this organization let Saquon just walk for nothing, basically, and to see the kind of season that he's having now, and for the Giants to kind of just turn their head from that and not pay him when it was very obvious that they should have. That's why I feel like Deion wouldn't kind of vibe with it too much, but I don't know. I could be wrong. If I was Deion, I would feel a little bit sus about it. I feel a little bit weird about it. So that's just me. But I feel like, again, Vegas, Dion, Shador, Tom Brady in Vegas. I feel like that's it's just screaming that that's the pairing, in my opinion. But back to Rex Ryan here for a moment. He spoke about wanting to coach the Jets again. I didn't think that was going to be a legitimate conversation, but he's taking it pretty seriously because he spoke on one of the ESPN shows, Bart and Hahn, and he had something to say about, actually wanting to coach the Jets. This is what Rex Ryan said in full during that interview. He said, and how hard can you get a guy to play? That's the thing. Nobody has seen a team going to play as hard as this team is going to play in the future. Trust me, if I'm the guy. Trust me. And that's going to be it. That's what's going to separate me from all these other guys you're going to bring in. Your Grudens, your whoever, whatever. Give me a break. They ain't the New York Jets. I'm all about the Jets. And, he continued to talk about it a little bit more, which I'll get to. Let me find out. I'm not a Giant hater. I'm over here in New York. I just feel like I just don't like the idea of how their front office, Joe Shane, and I'm sure you watched Hard Knocks and everything like that about them. I didn't like how that whole thing broke down, and I just really don't like the fact that they just let Saquon walk, knowing that he could go to the Eagles, and they just let him go. I thought that's so insane to me. I would have signed him to whatever he wanted just to avoid the fact that he could even go to the Eagles, of all teams, right? Of course he was going to go to the Eagles. I'm a Steelers fan, if you were watching the first segment and couldn't tell. I'm a Steelers fan, but it's like who's like a great player on the Steelers, right? If I saw like TJ Watt and there was a question about paying him or anything like that, and the Steelers just turned away, and then I saw him go to the Ravens or something, I would probably never watch for a good amount of time for any team, my team, to do something like that. That's just why I kind of feel a little bit iffy about the Giants and their decision making, I guess you could say. But I mean, they're doing better in decision making than the Jets. So you at least have that, but the Jets and Rex Ryan would be an interesting pairing. Again, I mean, he's already been there, Rex Ryan. He has been pretty successful, I guess you could say. I mean, compared to the other coaches that they've had recently, Rex Ryan in his time with the Jets, his most recent tenure, he was the head coach from 2009 to 2014. He had a 46-50 record, which might not look that impressive, but his 46 wins are third most among all-time Jets head coaches, and he has the most playoff wins in Jets franchise history with 4 of them, and he's coached in the most playoff games for the Jets as well. He took the Jets to back-to-back AFC Championship appearances in his first 2 seasons, which included an 11-5 record. So it's not the worst thing in the world. And again, I'm sure they take that over some of their other coaches that they've had recently. Man, the Steelers are trash, one and done in the playoffs. It's been like that. And I mean, that's a good argument if you want to make the case that being one and done in the playoffs isn't that much better than not even making the playoffs at all. That's pretty fair. But I don't know, man. Seeing some of my friends and how they react to Giants games and just being a Giants fan, I think it's a little bit better over here, just in my opinion from seeing it. But on Rex Ryan and the Jets, I mean, it sounds nice. He's had a pretty good... He's always, if you guys see him on TV, he's always had a good affection for the Jets and actually being a supporter of them, and it feels like he really cares. And it sounds nice, but I'm not too crazy about the idea or really the fit with it. Unless he brings in a top offensive coordinator, because I feel like when he's coming back and he's a former, coach there and everything like that, I'd feel like the only thing I wouldn't like about that is that he would come back and try to do things like his old way of doing it, which I think now, if you're not really adapting to what teams are doing now in the modern NFL and all these different offenses and motions and everything like that, and the deception that these new coordinators bring, I feel like it wouldn't really do too much different, honestly. So unless he's bringing in like one of these top guys for his offensive coordinator position, and that he's willing to let them call plays in the, just be the top play caller, then maybe. But personally, I'd like to see them, give a newer face a try, and also just go in a new direction, because I think they need a bit of freshness and a bit just of a new idea coming into that building to try and fix things up. And also, though, thinking about it now, to bring in somebody new, I don't know how many new people would want to just come in and take this job. It's kind of a hard sell, right? You have Aaron Rodgers, who's going to cost a lot of money. Devontae Adams, same thing. You just fired your general manager. It feels like everything is kind of crumbling down. So I don't know how many people are running to the Jets to be their head coach, if anything. So you might not find a lot of bidders, right? And Rex Ryan seems pretty optimistic to want to coach them. So that it's something that I guess you got to consider, considering maybe not a lot of people would want to just come and coach the Jets, considering where they are right now. So that's one thing. But Rex wants to return to the Jets, but do the Jets want him back? Yeah, I mean, that's also a big thing. If they actually consider him, he might be their best option, because, again, I don't really know who's going to be running at the Jets right now to try and coach them. I know they have a lot of great players and everything like that, but considering that they still have to find probably a new quarterback, and obviously a new general manager, probably a new offensive coordinator as well, they're going to have to try and restart this whole thing again. So it's tough right now. It's a bit of a puzzle to reorganize everything. So ideally, the big names out there for me are guys like Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick or Aaron Glenn. I think he should be a head coach in the NFL. The Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, he's doing a great job. Kellen Moore, he could be a head coach, but I think in the Jets in New York, I don't think that would really work. Joe Brady would be an interesting one for the Bills, but again, is he going to leave the Bills to go and coach the Jets? Probably not. And Arthur Smith, another one that I think would want the job, but are the Jets really going to try and re-energize everyone by hiring Arthur Smith? I don't know if that really works. Jets are worse than the Giants. Yeah, they are. The Jets are worse right now. There's nothing really good that they do. There's nothing really good about them. Everything that they tried failed. So the Giants have done well. Malik Neighbors, bringing in Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. They got great players. Dexter Lawrence, he's having a great year. They're definitely better than the Jets right now. I'll definitely say that. Rabel will be the Giants' head coach. That would be an interesting one. You don't like Brian Dable? I think Brian Dable's done all right. I mean, I don't know if I want to pin it all on Daniel Jones, right? Some of it has to do with Joe Shane and Brian Dable, but I don't think Brian Dable's going to get fired or anything like that just immediately. So that would be my only pushback. I'm actually not in New York. I'm in New Jersey technically, but I'm close enough, kinda. So that's why I say I'm kind of over here, but I'm technically in New Jersey. Definitely in New Jersey at that. But yeah, I mean, this conversation's an interesting one, right? I didn't think Rex Ryan would be this eager to try and get in there and coach the Jets again, but he was rumored to be wanting to be the Cowboys head coach, so I think he's just looking a way to get back, and the Jets could be the most intriguing spot for him overall. But again, do the Jets want him? That's the biggest question. So we're going to leave that at that, but we're going to go to a break right now. I'll come back and answer your questions when we go to our next break, and when we come back, we're going to go into our game picks and go to part 2 and just finish off predicting some of the rest of the games in Week 12. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
We are back now on the Chip Shot Football Podcast here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back, Almighty Finesse. Your comment made me laugh. Dable can go kick rocks. I didn't think Dable's been doing that bad. I mean, the records don't say that he's doing great, but I didn't think he was doing awful by any stretch. I thought he showed something a little bit to take Daniel Jones and that team to the playoffs and everything like that. I thought that would at least get him a year or two more with at least with a new quarterback, in my opinion. Maybe I'm being too generous, right? I'm not really too deep into how all Giants fans feel about him. So, I feel like he was going to stay around for a year or two more, but that's just me. But getting into our next segment, looking at the rest of the Week 12 games that we didn't get to talk about yesterday. We went through 6 games yesterday. Now we have the other 5 on today's show to kind of go through them, analyze them, and pick our winners as we always do on Fridays. So looking at the left-hand side of the screen, we got the Lions and the Indianapolis Colts. An opportunity for the Lions here. They could sweep the entire AFC South if they defeat the Colts. They absolutely destroyed the Jaguars and the Titans. They scored 52 points on both of them, and the Colts almost beat them, but the Lions came back and beat them with a game-winning field goal. So they're 3 for 3 right now. The Colts are the last team standing in their way to try and avoid a complete division sweep from the Detroit Lions. But the Lions have just been on an absolute tear, and Indianapolis are, I assume, feeling good about their decision to go back to Anthony Richardson, right? The kind of game that he played, what was it? 3 touchdowns that he was involved with, 1 to Josh Downs and 2 rushing ones. That was a great way to come back, from everything with the tapping out of the game, with just growing and maturing a lot more, I think, and that's one of the things that he pointed out as well that was beneficial from this time away, not being the starting quarterback, to kind of refocus, right, and kind of know what it means to be a starting quarterback, right, whereas before I don't think he really understood what it was. So it's done well for him. The Colts looked pretty explosive on offense, so that is something that the Lions kind of got to worry about here, but they're 1 game behind Denver for a wild card spot, so that's another thing that is keeping them in this hunt and kind of keeping them motivated, obviously, to try and get these wins. But I'm not about to sit here and pick the Colts, right? I'm gonna pick the Lions. The Lions make everything look too easy, right? They score too easily against a bunch of these teams, and I know they played the Titans and the Jaguars right in there, but in none of these games, I feel like the Lions are looking like lesser than any of their opponents. So I'm going to go with the Lions here. They're going to keep rolling, and the Colts are going to drop to a couple games probably behind Denver if Denver doesn't win either. So we're going to go with the Lions first. Colts are a definition of mediocre. I think that might be I would say that's a little harsh. I mean, they're hit or miss. I guess I'm trying to make a case for them, but I guess you could say they're mediocre. I can't really make a too strong of a case. The Colts they're very good 1 week, but then another week, with this whole development process with Anthony Richardson, I think mediocre or just inconsistent is what you want to expect, or you don't want to expect it, but you come to expect that they're in a stage right now where they're developing, hopefully, their next franchise guy, and along that path, there's going to be a lot of bad games, there's going to be a lot of exciting games, and it's going to be, like a roller coaster, right, up and down through all the tribes and tribulations until, hopefully, Anthony Richardson develops into what they imagined him as the 4th overall pick. But yes, right now, mediocre, hit or miss, inconsistent. I think all of that would fit the Colts right now. We can't really rely on them to go out there and give you an identity yet. So I would say that about that. But looking at the next game that we have here, a division game in the NFC North with the Vikings traveling to Chicago. It's the first matchup between these two teams this year. Caleb Williams is coming off of a better game after they got rid of Shane Waldron, and they should have won the game, honestly, against the who was it? The Packers. They should have beat the Packers last week. I truly believe that. I think the Packers have been kind of teetering on the edge of a lot of really close games that they've won, but I feel like that they also could have easily, slipped up and lost a couple of them. So I think in that situation, the way Chicago played and that last drive by Caleb, I felt that they should have won that game, but it was the questionable calls by their head coach that kind of sunk them in that game. So that was a crushing loss for them against the Packers. And the Vikings also haven't been really convincing a lot of people recently. They've been winning games. They've won their last three, funny enough, against all AFC South teams like we just talked about. But they've looked better. They've picked it up a little bit more, but they've also had these moments where the offense, Sam Darnold in particular, have looked like they've taken a bit of a step back. So that kind of worries you in this game. It looks like they're slowly getting there, but you truly never know, especially against the good Chicago Bears defense. That's one part of their team that I do feel that's very that's as close to complete as you would like, in all honesty. But I feel like it might not be enough in this game unless they get good production from their offense. I feel like the Vikings are going to use TJ Hawkinson a lot in this game because the Bears defensive backs are very good. Jalen Johnson, I'm sure, is going to shadow Justin Jefferson all game, and Jettis is going to get his targets right, but it's a tougher matchup, quite honestly. So I feel like TJ Hawkinson could have a big impact in this game, and that's why I'm going to go with Minnesota, because I just don't trust Matt Eberflus in close games and things like that. So unless Caleb completely dominates this game, I think the offense and the play calling and things like that, the decision making is still going to be a little bit off. So I'm going to go with Minnesota. Man, Caleb Williams is trash. He's not that bad. I can't call him trash yet because I don't think Matt Eberflus is good. I think if you're going to call anybody trash, it would be him. Shane Waldron wasn't great either. To kind of just call Caleb trash now, I don't think is pretty fair to him. He's had some good moments, and of course he's not Jaden Daniels or even Drake May, or maybe not even Bo Nix right now, because all of them are playing better than him. But I think it's got to do a lot with the situation. All of them probably have a better coach than Matt Eberflus. All of them are coached better, and they have better play callers than what Caleb's going through right now. So I don't think Caleb Williams is trash right now by any means. So moving on to the next game here, Denver and Las Vegas. The second game between these two teams, Denver has been great despite, the low expectations. They've been blowing everyone's expectations out of the water. And all the doubts and hesitations about Bo Nix as well, I think, have been pretty much silenced. We just brought it up, and he's been everything that I think Sean Payton would have loved in a quarterback. And the fact that he was, it's funny, he was taking one pick before Las Vegas potentially could have got their hands on him. So the fact that he's playing them now, he's going to continue to play them, going forward for the rest of his career is one of those funny coincidences and just outcomes of the draft, right? And, in the first game, they did very well against the Raiders. And right now, the best thing you can say about the Raiders is the fact that they drafted Brock Bowers, right? They missed on Bo Nix. They maybe could have got him, but the fact that they got Brock Bowers and what he's been able to do has been sensational. So that's the best thing about the Raiders team right now. I mean, Max Crosby's great, don't get me wrong, but I think Brock Bowers is kind of stealing the show there in Las Vegas. So with that being the case, I think all Las Vegas has to do, going back to your point, Almighty Finesse, the best thing the Raiders have to do right now is just wait for Shador and Dion to get there until next year. So for right now, I think Denver's going to win this game. They have a better defense. Their offense is kind of clicking right now, and Las Vegas really doesn't run the ball well. So it's going to be another tough outing, I believe. And the Broncos will win this game and sweep that series. Then we got another division game here. The Cardinals are traveling to Seattle, the first game of 2 over the next 14 days between these two teams. The Cardinals play the Seahawks now. They'll both play a different team next week, and then the following week after that, they're going to play each other again. So it's going to be interesting how they match up in so close proximity to both of their games. And the Seahawks could be tied for first if they go out and win this game, because the Cardinals right now are 1 game ahead of them at 6-4 right now, and the Seahawks, are 5-5. So the Seahawks could even that out right now if they go out and win this weekend. And what's funny about these two teams, Kyler's been playing very well. That's one thing. And the Seahawks got a great win last week over the 49ers, which was huge. But they're both kind of riding a good wave coming into this game. Both don't really have a great pass rush, which I think concerns me more about the Seahawks, because Kyler Murray is an absolute nightmare to try and get down on the ground, and Geno's obviously a bigger guy, so you could at least try and corral him in and bring him down, whereas Kyler, I can't imagine chasing him around, with these huge, pass rushers trying to go at him and trying to get close to him and actually tackle him. It's going to be a nightmare. So I feel like that point and the fact that, the Cardinals are